Welcome back. This is part two of the interview with Miss Emrie James. Miss James, you mentioned that Mr. Oliphant, Robin Oliphant, came all the way from Scotland to be an art teacher at St. Andrew High School. Tell me about him. I get the impression that he was one of your favorites.
well, the teachers were all my favorites, providing they were what they did so well. I appreciated them more than anything else because you needed good teachers at all times. You have a school, you needed teachers. And you see, when Miss Garcher, looking back at Miss Garcher, for example, is the person who was there when I went to her. She, along with Stocky, Stuart was another story.
Yes, she taught mathematics.
You take that, you put this upon that. This was Miss Stuart. But brilliant. A brilliant person. She also died of things that my sister-in-law had. Alzheimer's. Anyhow, she was, the girls, of course, made us whole lot. Children can be very funny, you know. If you can only look into the mind of a child, it's surprising what an impression you get of them. Because some children, they're taking it a lot when they're very young. And as they develop, you see it coming through in them. It really is an interesting study, children. And I, personally, I looked at whatever the circumstances were of the children who came into the school. I remember there was one case that I oftentimes look back at. She's now a professor in England somewhere, I don't know where. But her father, I remember writing the letter for him so that he could get help with this girl. And she did so well. She studied hard, and she got through with all her degrees, and she's teaching, I believe she's still teaching in England somewhere, but where, I don't know, you know. But the circumstances of the children, the girl who was burned to death just after I left St. Andrew. Marcia Pona. Marcia was my big. When Marcia came to the door after having got in, she was the only one from her school who had got a free place in a secondary school. And she stood there with her mother, and she listened to all they were saying about what they had to do, what they needed to have, what the parents had to do from their side, and what this child, she just broke into tears, and she said, the mother said, I can't help her with any of those because we haven't got it. Little Marcia, even her teeth had been out. It was just a sad story with that child. But we got her to the dentist. We got help from the dentist. I can't even remember now who the dentist is. I've been trying to remember who the dentist was that I took her to. And they looked after her teeth, and the little head. I would send her to summer holidays. I sent her to Singer because they were offering courses, and I said, Marcia, you can do it. You can go there. Just a little piece of material will make your skirt. I would get her some material. She'd go, and at first she didn't want to go. She didn't like sewing, right? But afterwards, she so enjoyed it. She was telling me how many skirts and whatnot she had made, and how she can now sew, and that she's now enjoying it, and became a lovely little child in Andrew High School. And when I heard of it, I got help from this chap in the plaza. What's his name now? I see his face. He had a big supermarket. He was a Jewish chap. He had a big supermarket on the right-hand side of where the people like their Mars and those were. And he said, I told him the circumstances of this child, and she would go to him at the weekend and would always get some help. He told me that she never at any time interrupted him when he came there. She was just well-mannered, that little child. And she would go to him, and he said until he sees that she's there, she never interrupted him. I said, but Marty, you should have told me that you're here, you know. And he said to me, you know, Miss James, she wants to be a pediatrician. I'll see to her education. I'm trying to remember the man's name. I'll see to her education. And she was doing so well at St. Andrew. The morning when Joan Reader, when she called me, she said, are you sitting? I said, no. She said, please sit. I said, what has happened at St. Andrew? She said, Marcia Horner has been burned to death. That was a black day in my life. I cried. I really cried. Because she had so developed into a lovely young lady. But you know, I said then, God, you allowed this to happen in this child's life. I'd rather hear that had happened to Marcia than to hear that one of the boys in her area had raped her, because she was beginning to have problems with their wanting to making her feel that she's thinking a lot of herself. You know how it is with our Jamaicans. And it wasn't so. She was not that kind of child. She really was not that kind of child. But God in His wisdom allowed it to happen, and I said, you know best every time. We cannot understand why, how unsearchable thy judgments and thy ways past finding out. And so Marcia, I hope, has gone to be with God, because she was a fine specimen of humanity. She really was. Anyhow, that's not what you're asking about. You know, I've gone off to that because I remember Marcia and what it meant to me when you would have known her. She was in your home.
She was.
Marcia was in your home.
She was.
Well, my little Marcia, a little head like a coconut. I remember her. Oh dear. Anyhow, it was one of the painful experiences in Zimbabwe that I had.
Tell us about the most enjoyable experience you had at St. Andrew High School.
Oh, that was 42 years of it, though. They were all enjoyable experiences. They were all enjoyable experiences, with the exception of Marcia, because that ended in death. The others, children are just children, and you cannot exactly see into the mind of a child. And sometimes you're cross because you feel that they should not be doing something that they're doing. But sometimes just childish pranks, you know. It's not that they were setting out to do anything or to upset anybody. But a child is a child. My father used to say, when you're a child, you act as a child. When you become an adult, you become an adult. If you see me living this house, he said to me one day, he said, everybody calls me Auntie in the family, anyhow, you want to have a house of your own. I said, yes, Dad, I've lived 42 years in Kingston, going to St. Andrew, having a house of our own in Kingston. I said, I just want a place where I can turn the keys in the door and it's my house. He said, you want a house? It's going to be a whip to your back. That's what he told me, and it's true, because you're always finding something that has to be done. And Marie, can't let her leave to go back home. She will not go back home. I said to her one day, I said, Marie, you've had it too good. That's what I think, you've had it too good. So anyhow, the house had not been finished building, and that's after though. That's a long start. That's the back of me. That's the end of me I'm telling you about.
You know what I remember so much about you, Miss James, was at prize giving. Every prize giving, you were there to help with distributing those prizes. And I have a photograph where I
was receiving a prize.
And there you are in that photograph.
but you see, you haven't got the time to look at. I have some pictures here of St. Andrew's prize giving and all the girls. People like Mrs. Burroughs. You remember Mrs. Burroughs taught art,
Right.
and her daughter. What is the name of her daughter? I tell you, my brain is gone.
And you were such a dresser. This is one of the things I remember. Here it is.
Oh dear.
Miss
Oh
James.
dear.
Look at how well.
Oh dear. But you see, I like dressing properly.
Right, yeah.
No, I do like putting myself together properly. Not proudly, but properly. You can put it that way. And so prize giving was a very special occasion because usually it's the governor's wives or somebody. So you had to put yourself together, your best together, which I suppose is what I tried to do. Don't know if I succeeded, but I tried. But prize giving, plenty of work. St. Andrew, I can only think of St. Andrew as work.